Is it on there?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Billy Watson TV. Today it gives me great pleasure to have a returning guest on, someone who has dug deep down many a rabbit hole, and especially the rabbit warren known as Tartaria. He has authored 2 books on the topic which go into many different aspects of it, including Cabbage Patch Babies and clones. Welcome back to the show, Guy Anderson. It's great to have you back.
Hello there, folks. How you doing? Well, I don't say, but the music was saying it's great to have Guy Anderson back, and you might have guessed by now, he's not back. I've just got a message from him saying he's got problems with his internet connection and he's on hold to the internet provider. So we're not even sure if he's going to be able to attend today's interview at all, which isn't the best of news, as I'm sure you've came here to see that if you're watching. There's a couple of people watching on YouTube, so thanks very much for tuning in. I am live on my website as well, billywatson.tv, but it seems to be quite hard to get people there. But anyway, if you're watching there, again, welcome to the show. And there was an issue syncing up to Facebook, so I'm not live there. So you're not watching me on Facebook. But anyway, Guy is still on hold, so I'm just going to waffle a little bit. Let's see what we can talk about. Let's have a look at Guy's books, shall we? He's got this book here, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. And basically, there's different topics he goes into in this one. The topics are, has history been rewritten? Well, the clue is in the word history, isn't it? His story. It's definitely, if you look into history, what we're told, the official narrative, there's certainly appears to be a lot of anomalies from the evidence before our eyes. Mainly, Guy again does talk about Tartaria, this whole thing about a reset. And I was working with a guy yesterday and we were driving about the town, and he asked me what I was doing today. I said I was going to interview a guy, an author of a couple of books about Tartaria. Now, he had never heard of Tartaria, and I was explaining, well, if you look at the buildings, some of the older buildings, and we were told there was a horse and cart around those times and not very much technology, and the people were peasants or whatever, but yet there's all these amazing cathedrals. And then we just drove past this building, stone building. I said, like that one there. I said, guy, there is some pretty cool old buildings, right enough. And then I never really went further into it. I would have liked to have, but it's hard to really delve further into it. But the good news is, Guy seems to have appeared. So let me just check in on him. There's a wee sign popped up. Oh, I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going to make Guy go live right now. So ready or not, Guy, here you come. Oh, what's that? It's disappeared. Oh, there he is. Aye. That's what I mean by I'm not sure what that is. So are you there, Guy? That is the question. Oh, I can vaguely hear a voice. Let me just try and turn the mic up. Your camera's pointing. Ah, there you are. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Sorry about that.
That's all right. Your audio is very quiet. I can barely hear you.
Any better?
Not really, no. Down the bottom, there's a gear wheel that's got some settings just above your picture down the bottom there. I don't know if that would help. Can you see what I'm talking about? It's got your name and can you see?
Now, is that any better?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, sorry. We're good.
No worries.
Yeah, sorry about that. My internet connection went down, and I thought either I'm going to have to do this
and use my iPhone as a hotspot, and then it might not be a brilliant connection, or get through to EE and see what's going on, and they've just reset it, and I'm back. So sorry about that, Billy.
Yep, no worries. I mean, I've had these. Oh my god. Basically, there's people saying on my website that technology is having problems with us. I'm just going to have a quick look. It's apparently we're upside down.
Oh.
Oh, just you. Just you. I think this happened before with one of yours, and I had to fix it.
Because I can see me as being, the right way up.
Yeah. I think there was an issue before, and people were getting a bit frustrated. Because I see you the right way up as well, and that's what I said the last time. So God knows what we can do about that. What happens if you're not on your phone though? You're on your computer, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a strange one.
So I am upside down, am I? People are saying that
Yeah.
I'm upside down, but you're not.
Yeah, it could be a frustrating watch, but again, I can fix it after the show.
Well, I wonder. I know it sounds a bit sort of primitive, but what if I turn the screen upside down?
Yeah, maybe. Have you got a webcam?
No.
No, it's a whole screen. Can you manage to do that? I'll just.
What about now?
Well,
What's that? I need to move slightly, but
yeah, it's a bit of a lag, so she's watching a lag. But actually, you still look the right way up to me.
Yeah. Well, strange, isn't it? I mean, what about now? Is that anybody watching? Can they see that? That's.
I'm just waiting. My girl. Yeah, she's saying that seems to have worked.
How strange! Yeah, so I've literally just took my screen, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And tipped it upside down.
Yeah, I don't know how you managed to do that right enough, but well done on that one.
Yeah, well, there we are. Yeah, no, it's balanced. So
right. Yeah, excellent. So at least
get there in the end, eh?
Yeah, I don't need to do much post editing type thing. It's quite time consuming, but basically, technology. I know what it's like. I've tried to do shows before, and sometimes you get sweaty palms when things go wrong beforehand, or you try to get a guest on, you've arranged it for weeks, and then things start to go tits up.
It's funny, isn't it? It's I remember watching a Family Guy episode where they were in the Millennium Falcon, and it was a Star Wars spoof, and one of them said on that, just try turning it off and on again, and that's often all we need to do, isn't it? In the age of technology, turning it off and on again.
Yeah, the old clear alt delete thing was quite popular. I used to work at Sky in their call centre, and basically 90% of my time was telling people to basically do that and hope it comes back,
We always used to. I used to own a vehicle security company that imported car alarms from America. A company called Clifford, and they had remote engine starts, and we were in Max Power and all these car magazines, and we just used to say all the time, God, look, it's gone now. RTFM. Read the manual.
All right.
Because people don't, do they?
No, nobody ever does. I mean,
I don't.
I've got a simple portable CD player. It's dead simple. There's a few little instructions on it, but I'm not using it yet. But my girlfriend read, and you can do this with it. I'm like, oh, really? That's quite handy,
Yeah.
Just press play and away you go, and we'll be all right.
It's a bit like the updates you get. Like my eldest son's always saying to me, "Oh, have you seen the new update on Instagram? You can now do this, this, and this." And I said, "No, I just accepted it. I clicked it and accepted the update." And that's it. And he said, well, if you read these things, it'll tell you all the new stuff you can do. And probably at the very bottom, all the things they're now doing with your data.
Yeah, definitely. They're very good at burying stuff in reams of legal jargon, whatever. But I never got a notification about that, so I'm not even sure. Because my girlfriend, she's done that. And she now says that Instagram tells you what you're liking. So she's a little bit of an investigator, what you want to call it, and these type of things. So it's not starting from now. It's like, so if you've been on Instagram and you've liked things for the past 8 weeks, not knowing about this update, then all of a sudden it's switched it on and everybody can see what you're liking. So she's looking at history and saying, oh, they were liking Only Girls fans or whatever, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Only fans get.
I imagine it's to see whether or not we're all going to be stuffed in a FEMA camp. That he keeps liking posts that are criticising this person in the government or this world leader or this nefarious character. Every time someone mentions them or criticises them, he's liking it. I wonder if it's actually connected to that, seeing who's going to obey and who's going to disobey.
Well, I'm sure they're keeping records anyway, but people like
Mm.
ourselves who put our necks out there, we've obviously, I think, got agents or whatever watching us, because I actually had a TikTok account hacked recently. I was doing this clips from interviews. Actually, my girlfriend was helping quite a lot. She was uploading them, quite a lot of effort over the past year and a half, to pick the right clip and get it all sorted and upload it. 3,500 followers I was getting, so I was getting there slowly building it up. Got hacked, same as got hacked on Facebook. Contact the company. Honestly, see the list of things you have to tell them the first day you logged in, the model you used, the city it was in, and all these list of things. It's like, I don't keep records like that. And I've
Mm.
to them, I've showed them, there's my interviews on my website, there's me logged into my website. I gave them all the information I had. Still, sorry, the hacker wins. You can get to fuck. And you just wonder if, people are
Mm.
saying he's getting too popular, time to pull the rug out. And
Definitely. Definitely, that's what they're doing. If you're not following the narrative, I lost my Instagram account. I had 13,000 followers on there, and I lost it to a Bitcoin company in Dubai. And Instagram weren't interested. No matter what I said, no matter what I did, they didn't reply. I chased and chased and chased, and in the end, I just had to accept the fact that they had let it go or were involved in it going. And with Facebook, 1 minute I'm shadow banned, the next minute I'm not. Um, it's pathetic. That's actually what it is. It's pathetic that they feel so threatened by the 99% that they need to resort to sort of this bullying and doing it in a sneaky way. You think that people can see your posts, but they're shadow banning you, and I think that is that's a very pathetic and very weak thing to do. If they're that concerned, ban your account. Don't shadow ban you so you don't know.
I even don't think, they're scared of the 99%. It's like the 1% of the 99%.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think,
that's being optimistic.
yeah, 250 years ago, they'd be sending us off to an asylum for not following New World Order.
Aye. Yeah, I mean, that's what gets me, right? If we're going to have a fight, spiritual war, let's make it a fair fight, but it's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
sorry, we're just going to do, because again, I lost 10,500 videos of Vimeo who'd been paying a subscription for 15 years. My whole website was full of the videos, thinking, I've got a good video provider. I'd done 3 videos. Fair enough, they did give me a warning after the second one, but I posted another video that disagreed with the WHO. Got that taken off, so I had to re-upload. I'm still in the process of going through re-uploading every post on my website. But recently, just last week, I sent them a message saying, how about giving me that back now? And they still got back to me, their trust and safety team. Oh, sorry, you lost your account because you disagreed with the WHO. That could be harmful misinformation, and forget it. You're never getting your account back. Don't darken our door again, basically. And yeah, it's fucking annoying. I just sent a message. You're pathetic, just like you said, and it's a big joke. And everyone knows you're lying, and the WHO are evil, whatever. And
Yeah.
where's the truth? Where's the evidence for the bullshit? Again,
Yeah.
it's not a level playing field, but
No, it's
there's
not.
terms and conditions, etc.
Yeah, it is pathetic. I mean, you probably know we've lost BitChute in the
Yeah,
UK. I mean, I hate using the term UK, but it's what everybody knows, and it's easier than explaining because we're not a United Kingdom, but to take away a platform that without our consent, that somebody somewhere, or the government, or the World Economic Forum, or the people at the top of the chain have decided we shouldn't be using this platform and watching the content on there. I don't remember asking them what it was okay for me to see and not see. I don't remember that conversation. I never got the memo. I wasn't in the meeting, and I'm being told what I can and can't do by someone someone who may well be doing things that in a million years I wouldn't dream of doing, and could be involved, and quite often are, in all sorts of disgusting, nefarious activities. And they're telling me what I can and can't do. And I think it just goes to show you that this freedom of speech that we are so proud to have here has gone.
Well,
It
very
doesn't
much so. In
exist.
the past, we used to talk about, what is this? This is in Nazi Germany, or then you see China banning
Mm,
people. I lived in Turkey, and sometimes Twitter would go down and all social media would go off. And you think, all right, in these countries, they're a bit more of a dictatorship, and people talk about North Korea. We are there. And recently,
absolutely.
obviously, they've introduced this hate crime, online hate harms bill, or whatever the fuck it is. So again, they're going to use this pornography. People have to start signing in with a digital ID or whatever to start accessing that. But that's a start of an entrapment, I think,
Yeah,
and probably get used against them.
yeah,
But
I agree.
basically, things like BitChute as well, as you say, like the BBC, we're getting letters through our door saying you must have a television license. So it's all right to watch that, and it's a law to pay us, money to make sure you can watch the BBC official narrative. But anything outside of that narrative, BitChute, and again, people talk about Rumble being an alternative, but they're controlled by the same guys, so they're probably monitoring that.
Yeah,
Everything online's monitored, and it's getting, it's moving further and further in the kind of arms around the neck kind of thing.
mm, yeah,
To
totally agree.
So it's another case of they've trapped everybody. They've got us all online, separated in our wee rooms, watching our digital screens, and now they're trying to control that situation to move us into the whole digital ID
Mm,
world, and
yeah,
various things going on that are making that seem more and more likely that
yeah.
people seem to be falling into the trap with. Like, what do you think about the whole? They're using immigrants. There's very much stirring that up just now to get people to protest. Then the police are going there and they're antagonising these protesters to cause these incidents, which are then highlighted and through the BBC, manipulated to say, "Oh, we can't have this. We need to control things," and then that'll be the next stage. So it's like problem, reaction, solution, blatantly in your
Yeah,
face. But you can't go and
absolutely.
tell everyone this. People will just fall for it.
They do. Yeah, and I see all the time people that I'm friends with putting things up onto Facebook and other platforms saying that the bloody immigrants, let's puncture the inflatable boats and rafts that they come over on, and I keep saying the same thing. That is what they want you to do. They're trying to incite violence. They're not happy unless we are divided and conquered and hating each other. But if somebody needs to seek asylum for a genuine reason, then we need to help each other. So I'm all for that. But we know why the mass are coming over here. We know why they're all of serving military age. We know what they're going to do with them. They're going to be uniformed up, and they're going to be out there because, I think when it really starts to heat up, a lot of the serving police officers, a lot of the military, are not going to turn on their brothers, their friends, their neighbours, but these people will. They don't know us. They don't have an association or an allegiance to us. They've come here. Um, it's no coincidence that we're not seeing boatloads of children and elderly people and women. We know exactly what they're doing, and that's the bit that needs exposing. I see things on TikTok showing that they're coming over here, they're working cash in hand. That's all misdirection. They are being trained. They're going to be uniformed up, and they're going to be put out there to tackle us. And that's actually what they're doing with these people, and that's what needs exposing. Um, that they're forming an army to fight against their own people. And I think the moment that's understood or hits mainstream, that is when we need to stop complying altogether and say, right, okay, that's it. We no longer pay tax. We're not paying anything at all because we're not going to finance an army to be created against the very people that you're supposed to defend, protect, and do the work of or for. So that it's just going to get worse, isn't it? But it will. I'm sure it will then get better, but it's going to get a lot worse out there, I think.
It's this deception element again. The police or whatever pretend, it's all just bullshit. Like, they pretend to be on our side,
Mm,
you know, and they've kind of sometimes people say, you serve us and this stuff, and you can see these guys they've been so brainwashed and indoctrinated to whatever they tell the police in their training. They want to just punch people. It's almost like they're an enemy against us and they hate us.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened to the friendly Bobby?
Oh, that's gone.
Again,
They're a corporation, aren't they? They're
it's a criminal
not. Yeah.
activity.
It is. And just like the council, they're all corporations. They're not interested in us, and it's gone. And I think that the only way we can do something about that is to recognise our own authority and no longer engage with these people, and say that I don't recognise you. You have no authority over me. You work for a corporation. You're not who you claim to be. So I've got no interest in anything you've got to say about anything, frankly, and walk on by,
Yeah, there's many people out there that are kind of not paying their parking fines, etc., like that, and some people are just ignoring it. I've actually joined something recently. It's like a community, and the first thing we do is when we get these letters in, you've got this declaration of standing in an affidavit that's basically saying, I am a living man. I am not this legal fiction name
Yeah.
that you're acting on, and basically get witnesses to sign that. So that's you telling them who you are, because everything's done by presumption and assumption. So they're assuming that you're ignorant sheeple, and you're the Vatican birth certificate, and you answer to your name, and that's what they act on, and that's what they own. But if we can understand we're not that, and take more control over our contracts and start saying, well, where's the contract that I've agreed to this particular statute? Show me the wet ink signatures, and basically stop defunding them on every level, because we're funding our own slavery. Like the CCTV cameras. I noticed the other day in a small town, just this 5G mask thing, and I'm like, where in the hell did that go up? And what is that thing doing? You get these blade runners are called. I think they're taking these things down, but in small villages everywhere, right, what is the purpose of these things? These things are sitting there, and then again you see the chemtrails go up, and you look in the sky, and there's patterns in the sky almost caused by this electromagnetic frequency that we're all kind of bathing in without real awareness or being told, what's going on with that as well. So there's definitely things happening that we have absolutely no information from the powers that be that they're actively involved doing.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the army getting trained at night time apparently, and there's these camps that they've got in certain places at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. They're all getting up and doing these activities, drills and stuff like that. And there's going to come a time when that's going to get enacted, and that should be an interesting period.
I do think that the answer is to recognise that we are in charge, and these the governments and so on, that they are actually supposedly there to do our will, to protect and serve us, and that obviously hasn't happened for a very long time. So I think we have now got to walk away. I argue with people all the time when they say, well, I'm going to vote for a different party next time and blah, blah, blah. And I keep saying to them, the fact you're participating is the problem. If no one participates, they can't form a government. So, that would be a great step forward. But there are too many people that are asleep and will never wake. And I think it's going to take something big for this to end. More and more things are being exposed all the time, which is great. But most people, they're fast asleep. And I'm not sure what we can do about that. I don't even know if we can wake them up. Dolores Cannon referred to these people as having no soul. I call them NPCs. Yeah, brilliant timing, Billy. Yeah, they're NPCs, and my guess is that they stem from human cloning. After the Tartaria Empire fell, the population went through the roof overnight. There's no logical explanation for that, other than that they were using cloning techniques, because 1777, you've got 770 million people living on this planet, on this realm, on Earth, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what we're on. I certainly don't think we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, though. But I've no idea, and maybe one day I'll find out. But for now, I'm just not sure. But 770 million people. 100 years later, it's doubled. Well, that's a hell of an achievement on its own. But they miss out the fact that 3.3 billion people died during that 100-year period. So, so what we're talking about is you go from 770 million in 1776 to double that, 1.4 billion, 100 years later. But during the same period of time, we lose nearly 3 times the same amount of people. Over 3 billion people died during the same period. How did they produce all of these people? Where did they come from? How did we have enough people to lose over 3 billion? So the only logical explanation is that they were mass produced. And, for anyone who thinks that it's new technology, read Adam and Eve or the Epic of Gilgamesh. It describes cloning in great detail. And some would argue that the story of Adam and Eve is a metaphor. Well, maybe it is, but they're describing human cloning, so it's one hell of a metaphor. And it's very old too. So I think that's what these NPCs are. They've got no connection to the past, and maybe people like you and I that are awake are carrying the memory of our ancestors in our DNA. And we know that things aren't right because it's how we feel. It's flowing through our body. But we just don't get what's going on, and we question it. And those that don't perhaps have no recollection of the past. They don't carry those memories. But that's just my thoughts on it, really.
Yeah, just so people know, I've grabbed a few images from your Facebook page. So all these images I bring up, you've got a little explanation beside it. You're pretty good at every few days or week or so to put a new one out there. It gives quite your slant or a little different slant on different topics that come up or you're researching at the time, I guess. So people can check you out, Guy Anderson on Facebook, and have a look at these stories. So the NPC one, how do you know these numbers though? Because again, if history is a lie, how can we trust there was this many people and this many people died and this kind of thing? Where are you getting that information?
Well, we don't. You're quite right. We don't know what's true and what isn't, and that's kind of the purpose of that particular post and me giving you those population figures. Is if we go from the mainstream narrative, it doesn't add up.
Right.
And that was kind of the point of it. A lot of the mainstream narratives don't add up once you start to look. And most people don't because we're busy or we're not interested. And so what I do is I take the mainstream narrative, I do spend time looking at it, and I sometimes get a calculator out and think, well, that doesn't make sense. It's not possible. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm taking the mainstream narrative and then questioning it, because the further you look, the less likely it's true or feasible. So that's but I put those posts up every day.
Right.
The one that's going up tomorrow is on alcohol.
Right.
And my thoughts on whether or not that actually existed prior to us entering New World Order in 1776. Did alcohol actually exist? I mean, we might have had wine, and we might have had mead and things like that. But I'm talking about actually abusing it and drinking spirits and large quantities of alcohol and being kind of encouraged to do that. So alcohol also means to detach yourself from your soul. And then we have spirits, which are the strongest forms of alcohol. So I've been looking into that. So that will be tomorrow's one. So that's kind of what I do, Billy. I take a mainstream narrative and then pull it apart.
Yeah, I mean, alcohol's an interesting one. I've read in the past that it was like in certain places it was almost like a food source. It was actually quite a good thing for you, mead and stuff like that, as you say. But certainly it's been perverted, and again, there's lots of even things like estrogen in a lot of beer these days.
Yeah.
So all the guys are going around with big man tits, and
Yeah.
Again, it's part of the feminization. I guess they try to do the male, the female kind of Baphomet.
Baphomet.
Stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You've done a wee post on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you like to talk about Baphomet and that kind of thing?
Yeah, Baphomet's a strange one because the first thing obviously we know that it's kind of a transgender deity or deep demonic figure with a goat's head, and you can see connections with that. And obviously with Freemasonry, when I joined, they kept telling me they were going to bring a goat out, and there was lots of references to goats, but that was all in the bar before I went in. Obviously, I left a long time ago now, but the Knights Templar, Baphomet, and the goat skull are connected. And that is who they worship. That's who the Knights Templar worship. And they're so with Freemasonry, most people that join what they call craft. So the people that we see with the blue and white aprons, the people like me when I went with the white gloves, wearing a black suit or a morning suit, that's craft. You then have these offshoots like Scottish Rite and the Knights Templar, and they're called chapter. And that is when the goat skull becomes relevant. And so that is the deity. That's who the Knights Templar worship. That's who, and the Knights Templar were hijacked, a very long time ago, as were most organisations. The Freemasons start out as master stonemasons. Hiram Abiff was the first. They built King Solomon's Temple. They used esoteric knowledge, worked with sacred geometry and cymatics and frequency and vibration to build incredible structures that resonate and heal. And then, obviously, like most things, the Jesuits come along, and the Phoenicians before then hijack these things, infiltrate them, and then turn them on themselves. So the Knights Templar now are considered to worship Baphomet. They're very nefarious. I can tell you some stories, actually. I went to Tamar, which is where obviously that's their home in Portugal, where the Knights Templar are based and where they were founded. I went there a few weeks ago, so I've learnt a little bit more while I was there. And there's references to Baphomet everywhere. So we see this sort of transgender figure, if we forget about the head for a moment. And we can see that playing out in Hollywood, can't we? That a lot of actors and actresses aren't quite, they're inverts, and we
the
know
children.
that. Yes, absolutely. And it's a shame, because back in the day, I used to love watching Jennifer Aniston, and I never thought for one moment why people like her and Sandra Bullock never had children, and why people like Angelina Jolie, adopt and so on. And I understand with, like, say, Pink, for example, she was seen pregnant, but we know what they can do with latex. So, we know now that a lot of what's going on is to do with I suppose they're trying to almost make a man and woman no longer a thing, where we've just got one sex, one religion, if at all, one government, one currency, one kind of way of doing things, and this sort of world army and so on. And they're going to homogenize absolutely everything. So we're no longer individuals. We're all kind of the same. We're just drones, or rather than clones. We're just kind of drones. But when you look at Baphomet, and you see the symbol that often you'll see outside, chemists, it's connected with pharmacy. It's on a lot of ambulances. To me, I see the DNA helix of life being cut in half. It's often a sword, sometimes a staff, but it's often a sword or a knife going through it. And I think that's symbolic of actually cutting our very essence in half, in two, splitting it in two. They'll say that it's duality, that it represents light and dark. It doesn't. The as above, so below. That's not what it's about at all. It's actually about splitting us in two, our very humanity.
I seen, Ozzy Osbourne died, and the funeral, Sharon Osbourne done this Baphomet symbol.
Mm,
Again, they put these things in your face, and I
yeah.
don't actually think that Ozzy Osbourne was the real Ozzy Osbourne. Christ knows what's going on. We get told that there's doubles coming in out. Even Putin is in America, but Putin's wife in the past said that wasn't the same Putin. You know, Again, they use body doubles, but certainly there's symbolism they put out there. It's almost like they've got a code amongst each other. They like to mock us if you're not in the
Yeah, they
gang.
do. And they get Muppets to do it as well. I mean, you'll see Beyonce and Jay-Z on stage doing showing the all-seeing eye, or and it's nonsense, because these
Wayne
people
Rooney used to
think.
do that after every goal.
Pardon?
Sorry, Wayne Rooney after every goal used to do that as well.
They really do think that they're now part of the club and they're sat at the top table, and they're not. They're nowhere near the top table. Sat at the top table are things that you and I couldn't begin to imagine. I don't even think they're human. So I think that they are we know from sort of the work of people like Donald Marshall and Mark Devlin that, and you know, my last book, Rise of the Clones, that people sell their soul for fame, and they think that they're selling something that's not tangible, that maybe doesn't even exist, so they do it without even giving it much thought. But what actually they are doing is giving over the right to the Illuminati in this instance to be cloned. And then we don't know when we see someone on TV or even in the street whether or not it is the original. And is the original now dead? Is the original now in a dump somewhere? Are they sort of hidden underground? Is Zuckerberg hidden away in in some sort of office surrounded by computer screens while his clone is out there doing the work and he's not allowed to leave? We don't know what we're looking at anymore. Even Donald Trump said on Joe Rogan's show a while back that that Joe Biden wasn't the Joe Biden from before, that it's not the same person. He didn't look the same. He didn't talk the same. He was even slower than the original one. And various facial features had altered. But I think that's kind of what happens, that they make 2 or 3 of that particular person, and then they're used for all sorts of nefarious reasons, but sometimes used to replace that person so they can have someone that's really in the public eye, very prominent, and get them to kind of do their work and spread their message through symbology.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the original Joe Biden looks nothing like the clones version. Well, say nothing like. You can tell 100% it's not the same guy. But I think there's like quite a few variations of the clone that's came out, and I don't know if you heard this one about Jim Carrey playing the role of Biden, because there's some things like I'm walking up steps and I'm falling. Like some things he's done in the movies that is then Joe Biden done as well. It's almost like, again, just let's have a laugh at this one, and just see what they can get away with. And if they just tell something often enough, like Paul McCartney is a good example. There's no way the original Paul McCartney is the guy going around these days claiming he's Paul McCartney.
Billy Spears, is it? Billy Spears?
That's one of the names, Billy Shepherd or Billy Spears. Yeah, it's got different. William Shepherd, I guess, is probably the one. But there's quite a few clips of him, people calling him Billy, just off King George Harrison's wife. In one clip, she says, "Oh, hi, Billy." Just when the camera's kind of, it's not official, just a meeting casually. So, and then there's a guy who played Wayne in Wayne's World. He just was in an interview and says, "Oh yeah, I got to meet Paul McCartney." Anyway, he says Billy in a little chat, so it slips out occasionally.
Yeah.
And again, the guy grew about 4 inches as well, so that was quite a good clue.
They think that we're going to miss it, don't they? But sometimes I wonder if it is, like you said, is it just for fun? Are they sort of toying with us? Because a lot of it's distraction, isn't it? If we're obsessing over who's been cloned and who hasn't, are we missing something else? And it's difficult to know what we should be looking at and what we shouldn't. But I don't watch the news at all. I don't watch TV.
I catch them up.
No, I just think it gives me one less thing to worry about, and I don't believe anything that they put on the news, even the weather. So I think that by disengaging, I can then decide what I'm interested in without being sort of pushed or guided, in any way. But it is difficult to know what's put out there. I mean, so many times people have said to me, do you think Tartaria is a psyop? Is that just a distraction and it was made up and so on? And fortunately, I've got very old books describing it and in great detail, lots of references to it. So, but initially, I did question it. Sometimes I think, am I supposed to look into this so I don't know what's going on in other areas?
Well, it was one of these things like Flat Earth that it come out all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden, like Eric Dubai done Flat Earth, I think, or somebody before him as well, and all of a sudden, poof, that's a thing. And then Tartaria seemed to be, nobody was talking about it, then bang. But I guess it's just like anything, sometimes like, say your girlfriend's pregnant and all of a sudden you see pregnant women everywhere. It's a bit bizarre, the world we live in, but certainly once you become awake to the Tartarian idea, it's got legs because there seems to be a lot of correlating evidence.
Yeah.
Just with your eyes and just walking around the city. Like I live quite close to Edinburgh, so when I was growing up, I was in there quite a lot. And you look at these buildings and think nothing of it, and all of a sudden you start to think when you hear about this, it's like fucking hell. How have I missed this? You know?
Yeah,
So
I mean, I've sort of traced the Tartaria coming out, if you like, hitting our radar to the release of the CIA document that details quite damningly the suppression of it and the deletion. And it actually does state in this particular document, which I can share with people if they want. I can sort of ping the PDF across to them. That it actually stresses in there, make no mistake, we are going to deliberately erase their history. And I think when that was, because obviously it was classified for a long time, and when it was declassified, that started to gain traction just before the events that took place in 2020. And that's when I think it appeared. There are people out there that are constantly going onto the CIA's website to look at the latest declassified documents. And when that one popped up, to wipe out an entire civilization, all of their architecture, and kill a lot of people, and use fake civil wars to do that, to orchestrate it. That's got to be the biggest conspiracy against us that's ever taken place. Forget the moon landings, killing millions and millions of people, destroying free energy, rewriting our history, and bolting 800 years onto our timeline. That has to be by far the worst thing that these bastards have ever done. But then, having said that, if they're responsible for things like the Great Flood and obviously the Younger Dryas period and wiping out Atlantis and so on, then that kind of does top it. But with regard to Atlantis, all we've really got ultimately is Plato to go on. But I think it's the biggest one of them all. So you could go onto their website, look at the latest declassified document. It could just be something to do with a chemical they're now putting in food, or something they're doing through the television, things that we already kind of know about. But I imagine the first person to see that document must have thought, bloody hell, I've hit the jackpot here. And then it went absolutely everywhere. And Max Egan, the Australian Max Egan podcast host, he was a musician as well. He's now banned from Australia. Despite being born there, he's had to flee the country for his own safety. He was the one really that got it, put it on the map.
yeah. I was going to say something, lost my train of thought there.
I do that all the time.
Basically, we're just talking about clone people. We'll try and come back to that. But you got this one about Bill Gates. And there's lots of rumours of him. In India, he vaccinated a lot of people, and some people claim that he was taken out then. Because again, there's lots of videos. Again, doesn't look like the same guy. And even Melinda Gates, she's got some people claiming, like, I think Robin Williams was playing her, or stuff like that, and she changed as well. And then you've got his parents were Planned Parenthood, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Just before, I remember just talking about the destruction of Tartaria and stuff like that. I was listening to your John Hamer interview, which was really good, and just talking about Dresden, and not just Dresden, the other things that were totally destroyed. And even you talk about the fairs, the world fairs, and how they were not just paper mache buildings, the Crystal Palace and all these things. They've not managed to destroy them all, but there's a fair whack of these old buildings that are like absolutely stunning. Do you think if they were still around, people would be a lot more questioning of our history, and they've had to do the best they can to kind of smash it up? And is that kind of part of the reason for these world wars and stuff like that? As you say, civil wars to destroy this history.
I think so, but with the World's Fairs, as you said, they said that some of them were made from paper mache. Um, you know, but how can you destroy? Well, first of all, why would you build most of it out of paper mache and then leave a couple of buildings left standing that happen to be made from marble, stone, or granite? That doesn't make any sense. So I think that with the World's Fairs, most of them were demolished or had accidental fires. And I think that that's because people were questioning them. People would have been turning up to these events and saying, well, this building's been here forever. You've just painted it white, to make it look fresh. You've whitewashed it. why are you saying this person designed it and it only took 9 months when my grandparents used to talk about it? I think that, so what they did in the end was just demolished them, because people were asking too much. Because to take down something like some of these World's Fairs and like the Crystal Palaces and so on, to do that, to destroy them, is just seems heartbreaking. If they were built relatively recently, it would seem bizarre, such a strange thing to do. Why would you? What would the reason be to demolish it? So a lot of them had accidental files, but and I do believe that that is because people were questioning these things. I don't think they had anything like the attendance that they claim. And you've only got to pick any World's Fair and say, okay, where did the materials come from? Where are the traces of stone being quarried? Where were the stones cut? Where did the workforce come from? Who was the manufacturer of the glass? How many glaziers did it take? I looked at Crystal Palace. 264,000 panes of glass, all come from Birmingham by barge. Now, some people have argued with me, well, they would have sent some in, by train as well. No, the narrative says by barge. Doesn't matter what you think. I'm going by the narrative and then I'm pulling it apart. So I'm questioning the facts we are given, which we know aren't facts. So I come from a sort of the opposite, I suppose. I guess like you, I look at a fact as being a myth and a myth as being a fact. And it seems to be that that's how things are panning out. But with the wars, I think a lot of the wars were specific to do two things, and the key is often in the word "great" with all of these things, whether it's a fire or a war. But I'll sort of explain that in a minute. And if I'm rambling, you've got to tell me to stop, interrupt me as soon as you like. But the idea with war is to kill the previous civilization off. So the Napoleonic Wars, for example, a lot of people wrote that they were fighting the enemy, if you like, that appeared to be wearing the same uniform, and that was repeated. Lots of people said that they couldn't tell who was who. They were just shooting at everyone because they were all wearing the same uniform. So get us to kill each other. And that's why, in military terms, we use terms like battery. Because it's the energy, the Loosh farm thing, they're feeding off our energy, and watching us kill each other using divide and conquer, get us to kill each other. So they can wipe out the population doing that. They introduced lunacy acts and so on. So when the civil war started to really take place, they introduced the lunacy act, which meant that if you lost your husband in battle, you were committed, you were considered insane, automatically considered insane, and the children were taken away from you. So you then got the tools to repopulate. But architecture was important too. So if you look at what happened in the Blitz during the Second World War, the most damage done was to the East End of London. And people will argue, well, yes, they were hitting the docks because they were important. I'm aware of that. I'm talking about the housing. 25,000 houses being hit, constantly bombarded, missing the docks every time and hitting the houses. Well, they didn't have such brilliant accuracy back then. That's bullshit. We know that they did. The distance they were dropping them from, you're telling me that you can't see what you're hitting. And very cleverly, the children are sent away, they're evacuated, and the adults are put into Anderson shelters, or they're sent down into the London Underground, so they can't see what's going on. The East End of London, two people called Abercrombie, as in Abercrombie and Fitch, and another one called Goldfinger. They were trying since the sort of, I think about 1933, desperately trying to get the East End redeveloped so they could get their claws in, build blocks of flats and social housing, and then own it all and rent it out. That was refused several times, and it just happened to be exactly the area of land that the Blitz wiped out, and then their plans came to fruition. So I think that it's destroying architecture for numerous reasons and resetting populations. When there's a big war or a big fire, they'll use the term great in front of it, and great actually means, in that instance, removing one generation of history and memory. As in great-grandparent, your great-grandparent tells your grandparent a story, the grandparent tells your parent a story, your parent tells you, and each time it's diluted and a little bit more history is lost. So when they have a great war or great fire or great flood, it actually means to wipe out in the same way as a reset. Great is to remove a generation's history, and then you can start with a blank sheet.
Yeah.
It's a
Again,
long-winded answer to your question, wasn't it?
yeah. Well, people again. I think you mentioned in a previous show about the Germans coming across. Is that feasible? So, and again, I think John Hamer talked about Winston Churchill being quite an evil dude, shall we say?
Mm,
So, were these things done by our own planes? And it's like
yeah.
you get these fires in America or whatever, and floods. Again, there's like prominent land that they want, and they have these people say directed energy weapon or whatever,
Mm,
and it destroys that area. Then the builders go in and make use of that land. It's a similar kind of thing.
yeah,
You know, they'll have
absolutely.
some event happen, and then they can go in and use the land for it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think you're quite right. I think, I've questioned that before. Is it possible that a plane can take off, come over to England, bomb, and then return using the fuel that so it can't refuel when it gets here, and it can't refuel back then. They weren't refueling in the air. So, is it at all possible that it didn't happen? In the way we've been told, and is it possible we bombed ourselves? Is it possible we had planes that we sent up ourselves that looked like German planes and did it? We don't know. And my mother's father worked on Spitfires during the war, and my father's father was a squadron leader in the RAF. So I'm not coming from somewhere that's anti, what our people did. They went through hell and back, and they thought they were fighting the fight. They thought they were doing it for good reason. But I imagine putting a gun to someone's head and saying you're going to get up there and you're going to do this, or you and your children, everyone you love, is going to go.
So you
Then
think a lot of these guys they were war heroes have came back because they went to Germany in these Spitfires, but they're not actually going there. They're coming, they're destroying. Then they say, "Oh, what about the war?" Grandpa and say, "Oh, he doesn't talk about the war." Maybe that's the reason.
yeah, yeah, and I've often wondered why, because that was the thing, wasn't it? It actually became a saying, don't mention the war. We
Mm,
weren't allowed to talk about it. My grandparents did not talk about the war at all. My
mm,
dad did a bit, but only little bits he could remember, like playing on what was, there was used to be a house there, and now it's a bomb site. We used to go and play on there, see what we could find. But he didn't know anything about what took place. But my grandparents, they did not talk about it. You weren't allowed to, and that was quite common.
yeah.
And I've often wondered why that might be. Walls have ears, and you don't know who's listening, and all this nonsense. But we know it was caused. The Rothschilds financed it. We know that. They normally finance both sides. Now it's through businesses and companies like BlackRock and Blackstone and Vanguard, but it's the same people ultimately financing it. It's no longer for money because it's fiat currency, so they can just sit there and put as many digits on zeros on their bank balance as they like. It's not real anymore. It's not. It's got no value. It's not worth its weight in gold anymore, is it? It's not backed by sterling, silver, or gold, so we know it's not real. But I think now it is really about you know fear and destroying architecture. And I think what happened in the Middle East after the towers went and they go over there and declared an illegal war. And the first thing they bombed was the site that the German archaeologist, I can never remember his name, Fassbender or something. He'd found what he believed to be Gilgamesh's tomb. The BBC website actually still has his article on there, and it's the first thing they hit. I mean, what sort of military strategy is that? Let's go out there and look for weapons of mass destruction and terrorist cells. That my eldest son worked for a bank in Australia with someone from Afghanistan, and he said to my son said to him, "What's it like growing up somewhere where you've got ISIS or Al Qaeda running around?" The lad laughed. He said, "What, you mean the CIA dressed up?"
Right.
He said they didn't exist
Yeah.
until you lot invented them.
Yeah. And
And
now
it
they're all
tells
living in a hotel in London.
you, yeah, absolutely. So it's all nonsense, isn't it? That we blamed this one person for all of it, and that's happened in the Napoleonic Wars. Blame one person for all of it, make up a fictitious character based on someone, and then blame them for everything and walk away scot free yourself.
Well, again, it's been proven that these weapons of mass destruction didn't exist, but Tony Blair
Mm.
is not a war. Well, he is a war criminal, but he doesn't get
Mm.
arrested. He's going to be the one pushing digital IDs. So, again, one rule for them and another rule for everyone else. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he should be on trial, shouldn't he, for what he's done, and what he continues to do. And how do you do what he did and then become a peace envoy for the Middle East? I mean, the man is a contradiction in terms, but we know he's part of the problem. He was introduced through the Bilderberg Group, where all of the prime ministers and presidents go. The vetting process. Jimmy Savile's I suppose, saviour who's sat at number 10 right now. He was another visit to Bilderberg, the Bilderberg group, and 5 minutes later he's the leader of the Labour Party, and shortly after that he's put in power. So they're vetted, told what they're going to do, and they're puppets. We know they're puppets. None of them have the power to do anything. And then after that, if they do a bloody good job, you end up like Tony Blair,
Tony B.
st-
Liar.
yeah, and still in a position to influence.
Yeah,
When really, he should have been hung for the war crimes that he committed. And then you've got people like Barack Obama, who, a lot of people still think he was some kind of savior, and wasn't it nice to have the first black president? Well, he wasn't black, was he? He was mixed race, but this man carpet bombed more civilians than any other president, and actually sanctioned the death of more civilians than any other president in the history of America, and that is not something to be proud of. And also there are some strange goings on with his wife, aren't
yeah.
there?
But yeah, he still there's another one that gets up on a pedestal and gives these
Mm.
speeches. Everyone's like bow down to the great Obama. Somehow his reputation is enhanced from what he done instead of being in the gutter.
I'll show
Uh,
you something quickly that I cannot put onto Facebook. And it's something that I've been working on. I've been digging into that man for a little while, for years actually, and I'll hold it up.
okay, what's that showing? Obviously, the H man. You saying that's their son?
Allegedly, grandson.
All right.
Yeah. There was an FBI document that was released during the pandemic, right at the very beginning, and it was leaked. And I saw it. I then lost it. I then saw it again, and now it's gone. It's completely gone. And it was showing that if we can't use his name, can we? The
Yeah,
Chancellor
you
of
can use it.
Germany. We can.
Aye.
So Hitler allegedly had daughters, and we know that obviously he went to South America, and that it was his butler that was killed, or sorry, was committed suicide. We know it was his butler. So he and Eva go off to South America. They had three daughters, and one of them was uh, why have I forgotten her name? Angela Merkel.
All right.
The next one was Theresa May,
Yeah.
and the other one, whose name I've completely lost, married somebody from a Kenyan national, called Obama.
Right.
She found out that he was married, so the marriage ended up being nulled, null and void. They then came. She'd gone over to Kenya. She'd married him. They had a baby. She brought the baby back to South America, and then she remarried while she was there. While she was in South America, she remarried Argentina. So this woman, Hitler's and Eva Braun's daughter, has now got an illegitimate child, and that illegitimate child is Barack Obama. and it goes into incredible detail, saying that what they'd managed to do is introduce the Fourth Reich, and that is putting Hitler's children in positions of power. So there is a conspiracy regarding that. But actually, the further I've dug on on Hitler, the more I found that it's possibly unlikely that he would have done that for nefarious reasons. But they're saying that they put his offspring, if you like, in positions of power and influence around the world to introduce the Fourth Reich. But I actually think that if that is the case, that these people were probably set out originally with the intention of doing good, and then were hijacked. But I don't know. But it's an interesting document. There might be people out there that have seen it. There were some podcasts on BitChute about it. But it is, and on it, to stop it being removed, even from BitChute, it was called Barry Hitler.
Right, Barry Soetoro was his name.
Yes, Barry Soetoro is his name. Yeah. So that's, but because there were people starting to talk about this, and this document was leaked, people changed his name to Barry Hitler. So so the algorithm wouldn't pick it up even on BitChute. So if you put Barack Obama up, it would come down. If you put, Hitler's grandson up, it would come down. So they started calling him Barry Hitler. It just seemed to enable it to stay in place, and also it became a bit of a joke, I suppose. But it's an interesting theory for people to look into. But as I said, the further I've dug into World War II and what actually happened, the more I can see that history has really been written by the victors, and a lot of key people, have been completely inverted. As you said earlier on, Churchill being one of them. That's an unpleasant man. Very, very unpleasant man.
So here's the thing. Well, basically, it reminds me of V for the Vril with Donald Marshall, that kind of stuff. But so I at one point done the deep dive and all this stuff, and there's the documentary "The Greatest Story Never Told" and various other ones that paint Hitler, the painter, in a much more different light. That he was a good guy, a great guy, and all this. And I watched the John Hamer interview he done where he talked about it was like Jewish people within, because Hitler got rid of the Rothschild Bank and started the country getting better, using their own currency and free from what do you call it, usury, so they could build up their weapons and stuff like that. But so there were lots of Jewish people was like espionage and stuff on the streets there and going against things. So that's why he started the kind of concentration camps to make them a workforce. So he didn't set out with the intention of being anti-Jewish, but it became that way. And again, the concentration camps were not just mass extermination using gas and stuff. They were a workforce, and I guess some of them had entertainment facilities and cinemas and swimming pools and stuff. And then the bombing of Dresden and everything, so there was no food got to these places. A lot of them died of starvation. Then they came along at the end and claimed Hitler had killed all these people. So there's that side of it. But some people say that Hitler was a child of a Rothschild woman. So, and ultimately he was working for the Jews because out of these wars, the Israel state was formed to protect Jews from the likes of Hitler treating them badly because they've been this persecuted group. Now, again, it's not a race, but you know what I mean? It's deemed that way, but a lot of them could be out of, what was it called? That place is something Stan. The place where the claim it's not a country anymore, where lots of the Jewish people came from. What is it called? Kazakhstan or something like that.
Yeah, I know where you're. Yeah, because there is actually. I mean, that's a lot of Jews are actually, and it's gone now. But yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to.
Kazaria.
Yes, yeah, thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
So the point is, was Hitler ultimately, because apparently he was in London with Stalin and Chamberlain or something almost before the wars, and it was like, was he getting orders then? So again, it was all theatre designed to come up with that ultimate well, maybe a final solution for them is to get the state of Israel, their homeland, and which just fills their biblical prophecy, which seems to be getting acted out just now? Or do you think he was a genuine, guy that was seen the army, came out of the army, wanted the German people to take, have pride in who they were, and because the initial war, the Treaty of Versailles, put them in so much debt, so hard for them to get out of. So I think there was genuine the rise. I mean, I'm not saying his methods were great because there was an element of that party being quite controlling, to have a like almost dictatorship within Germany to get people building the autobahn and whatever, raising the country up. But a lot of people loved him for that. So was he working for whom? Himself and the genuine thing, or do you think he was controlled ultimately just to play the game of having a bad guy and then the good guy was kind of solving the problem or whatever?
Mm. Well, to answer your question, you need to go back to the Society of the Elect and the real reason for the First World War. So you've got Germany that was a superpower, and they were worried. The British Empire was worried that they were going to become an empire in their own right. They were technologically advanced.
Yeah,
They had money. They were clearly using antiquitech still. They were harnessing energy. Their buildings, none of their buildings had been destroyed from the previous civilization. They were all still standing. And we know today that their technology is a lot better. Their build quality is a lot better, and their engineering. So they've always been at the forefront. Today, if you wanted, if I said to you, right, here's £50,000. You've got to buy a really luxurious car, but I want it to be reliable. It has to be well engineered. You're going to instantly go and buy something German. We're going to look at BMW, Mercedes, Audi, so on. We know that. So the Society of the Elect was formed by Cecil Rhodes, and he was financed by the Rothschilds, because they didn't their fear was that Germany was going to become the next empire, that they were going to be too advanced to even tackle. So a series of propaganda stunts took place. To Japanese boats bombed, all sorts of things happened, and the Germans were blamed, even though it was proven afterwards that they were nowhere near there at the time, and it couldn't possibly have been them. So the idea with World War One was to remove Germany as a superpower. That obviously the end result of that war left Germany in dire straits, and you know they were living hand to mouth. The poverty was incredible. The restrictions and sanctions imposed on them were not possible, and the Rothschilds' banking system was crippling their economy even further. So they were destroying it from every single direction. So he was one of the people that was speaking about this, and other people that were very powerful got behind him and said that his voice needs to be heard. He'd be a good spokesman. Now, Hitler himself is the son of Solomon Rothschild.
right.
His mother was a maid. She worked for the
Yeah,
Rothschilds. He got her pregnant. Ultimately, she remarried. She was married to somebody else at the time. She then married Eloise Hitler. He'd changed his name to Hitler. I don't know exactly why he'd changed his surname to Hitler. And he adopted Adolf. Um, so Adolf, who served in the First World War, decorated soldier, was given the task of speaking out about this. So he wasn't attacking the Jewish people. If you hear any of his speeches, if you can find them online and they're translated correctly, he never talked about it at all. He was talking about the British Empire, and in some of his speeches, he was talking about the British Empire stealing people's land, stealing people's money, controlling too much, and it needs to stop. And he actually said that he was going to do his best to free people from their clutches, so everybody could live freely in peace. He pleaded at the start of the Second World War not to bomb. He didn't retaliate for ages. He refused to retaliate. Um, and as you quite rightly said, people were queuing up to get into Auschwitz because of the food supplies and water being cut. People were dying of starvation. Normal people in their homes were struggling, and so they were queuing up to get in the concentration camps. No prisoners of war were ever harmed, and funnily enough, after after Dresden, a lot of children escaped. A lot of children escaped on trains, and the Allies actually shot those trains down, knowing that they were full of children. Dresden was bombed on the day of Fasching, which is a children's festival. They were on parade in the street. So the Allies orchestrated all of this, and all he was trying to do, and bear in mind, he begged not to go to war, and he refused to retaliate for some time. So you got somebody who wouldn't harm a prisoner of war, who pleaded not to go to war, who refused to retaliate until it got too late and had to do something. That's the person that is considered to be the enemy of the world and the single cause of what took place. The gas chambers, they were actually, and the concentration camps, that's American, that financed by America and built by the Russians. So we know that that's all bullshit. And if you look at the numbers involved, they've now reduced those numbers significantly. It was all propaganda. So as you quite rightly said, people were starving to death because the Allies were stopping them from being able to get food. The whole story, it's just the British Empire trying to stop someone turning against them or fighting back against the regime. So it's all bullshit. But obviously we again, we don't know any of this for certain. But the more you research it, the more you start to see that it doesn't stack up. Someone who brings out a vehicle so everybody can own a car, somebody who's giving you a 25% discount on buying or renting a property for each child that you have. So if you had 4 children, you didn't pay rent. You got a free house, who was trying to rebuild his civilization, the population, and the economy. And the only thing he did wrong was stopped the Rothschilds from crippling the economy through their banking system. That is what started the Second World War, when someone stood up and said, no, you're not doing this anymore to the people. And the Jewish thing is just, I suppose, something that they jumped on, and then gave the Rothschilds the power to create their own country, to be given Israel on a plate as a direct result of something that they caused to start with. So it's very clever, very well thought through.
Because
And a lot of
he was a Rothschild. He was a Rothschild, but again,
yeah,
he didn't
yeah,
himself.
and not very happy about that fact at all, because it's how his mother got pregnant that he couldn't stomach.
Right.
She wasn't in a loving relationship. She was his servant, Solomon's servant.
Right.
So, to find out that you are the illegitimate son of somebody you despise probably fueled his anger somewhat. And I think that that's what drove him. But it's interesting because in the Olympics in Germany, just before the war, they had, his name, as I get older, my memory's getting worse and worse. I never remember if it's Jesse Owens or Carl Lewis. I can never remember
Jesse
which one.
Owens.
Jesse Owens, thank you. So Jesse Owens actually said that he spent time with him and he'd never been treated so nicely in his entire life. He'd never met people and a leader that seemed to be the complete opposite in how they treat black people to where he was from. And he couldn't speak highly enough of him. Now, I find that very strange, because that doesn't align with what we've been taught to believe, that this person was, specifically looking for Aryan, it wanted to repopulate using Aryan people and Aryan blood. And that actually is to do with Tartaria, the Tartar Aryans. So what he was trying to do was actually find the bloodline to the people that had the skill to reinstall sacred geometry and get harness energy from the ether and Tiquitech, and understanding frequency. He was trying to actually locate those people, their bloodlines, and reinstate them. That's why he was looking for the Aryan race. He was looking for those people that had that inbuilt knowledge and reinstate them.
So if he was such a big enemy then of the Rothschilds, and then apparently, well, I'm thinking of the rat lines was lots of Nazis went through Project Paperclip to the Vatican,
Yeah.
to America, but then he's went to Argentina. Surely they would know he was there, and obviously
Yeah.
why they went after him there, and now why are his daughters or grandchildren in positions of power if he was such a big enemy?
Yeah, so I think that I think again, this is why I said that it's a strange one where these children got at, where
Right.
his daughters actually got at, because obviously he ultimately died in Argentina. I think that I read somewhere that he was actually killed in a car accident. I do
Right.
have a photograph of him drinking a bottle of wine. It's quite well taken, and the bottle of wine had, I think, 1949 on it.
Did he not live quite a while? I thought he lived quite a long time there.
Yeah, but this was just a photograph of him drinking a bottle of wine after the war.
Right.
So
Right. Okay.
it's showing you that, and this is I've had this for some time before that we start. I mean, we don't know how old AI really is, but it predates that being a possibility in the mainstream.
Right.
But it could well be doctored. But yeah, he was allegedly killed in a car crash in Argentina. Um, some time after the war. So what happened to his children? Well, his children were sent back to the motherland to be educated there. That's ultimately where they went. They went back to Germany and they were re-educated. What happened from then? They were taken in by different families, and he was gone. He was gone by that point. So it could well be that they were
Yeah. Again.
manipulated, altered to go and do things. Maybe maybe they weren't. Maybe they had a mission and they were hijacked. Maybe they were replaced. Maybe it's all made up. I just don't know. But the document sort of disappeared. BitChute's gone unless you've got a VPN, and that's the only place I could find people actually talking about him and his children. So it's an interesting one. But for me, it's still very much a theory because I just don't know. I just don't know what to believe on that. But I think it's interesting. It's just hard to explore it because, like you quite rightly said, Angela Merkel's not particularly pleasant. Theresa May wasn't either. Barack Obama wasn't. So are these people really doing his work if he wasn't the
Or have they
character?
been thrilled?
Yeah, so that's your other possibility. But obviously, Theresa May was in and out in 5 minutes. Angela Merkel seemed pretty unpleasant. But the interesting thing is, if you look on Google at any photographs of them together, that's where it's strange because you'll see the first time allegedly Obama meets Angela Merkel, he greets her by giving her a hug and kissing her on the cheek. He
Yeah.
didn't do that with anybody else in that meeting. And which is unusual for him because normally you'd think he'd walk straight to the nearest man and give him a good kiss. But Angela Merkel and also when he met Theresa May, the same thing. And people have said, well, look, that's because they're his aunts. So when you see him interacting with them, if you look at old footage or photographs of them together, there is something there. Um, but I'll be totally honest with you, Billy, it's not something I have looked at since 2020.
Right.
Tartaria has become a sort of obsession. So I sort of dropped that one. But the reason for putting that post together, which will just be a blog on my website because I don't want to lose my Facebook account, is because I'm writing a book at the moment, which is the A to Z of conspiracy theories, and it's in alphabetical order. And
Right.
I could not miss the opportunity of including Obama in that. Not just because of his possible links to Hitler, Angela Merkel, Theresa May, and so on, but also because of Michael Vaughan Robinson, his wife, you
Right.
know, and the carpet bombing, and what a nasty piece of work that person is. So I only raised it because it's something that I have just literally written a little chapter on in this book, but it's food for thought, isn't it? We just don't know, do we? Really, what's true and what isn't. But there'll be people out there that will perhaps take this thread and pull it and see where it ends up.
Yeah. I mean, with regard to Obama, there was not something that you had to be an American to be an American president. But something came out recently where he actually admitted in the early days that he was from Kenya,
Yeah,
and it just gets covered up, just because they can do what they want. Apparently, you know what I mean. these
yeah, yeah. And we know now, don't we, that ultimately, I mean, they do some pretty shitty things, but we know ultimately they are all controlled. You know, the Bilderberg group puts the presidents and the prime ministers in. Trump's a sort of bit of a weird situation, isn't he? Because I personally don't trust him at all. I think that people are going to realise pretty soon. But what's interesting is Dolores Cannon said that the third Antichrist would appear as some kind of saviour that was going to change the world for a better place right now as well. It was going to be now. And that they would appear as someone that's going to be changing things for the better. And initially he looked like he was doing that, but slowly he's introducing things that are a little bit worrying, like the asylums again and so on. He's doing some very strange things. So I personally think he might be a wild card, or actually he's part of the club, and that's the persona. But then of course you've got these books, haven't you? The Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood, who also wrote about Baron Trump. 100 years ago. Could he be the last president? Is that going to be when all of this ends? When this current reset ends? Could it be when his term in office ends? So that could be quite interesting to see what takes place there.
See, I do think, shit's going to happen, and I do think we're actually at the end of a sun cycle, and, a reset or something's about to unfold. You almost feel it in the air. We're heading towards some point.
Yeah.
But with regard to Trump, I think his name's Tyler Hansen or something. The guy who does lots of comparison things on social media. He's come up recently with this one that, well, first of all, Donald Marshall talks about Trump is pulling the strings of the cloning right now, and there's that side of it. But basically, this Tyler guy, initially he was saying Elvis became Trump, and his latest one is Elvis had a twin, and the twin never died, like or claimed he died. And he showed pictures of, there's like almost like two Elvises. One's got a round chin, and the other one's got a flat chin. So the one, I think, with the flat chin became this Bob Joyce that everybody says is the preacher who is Elvis still alive. Because obviously he had two A's in his name and his gravestone was spelled wrong or whatever.
Yeah, you wouldn't make a mistake like that.
And there's a picture of Elvis in his grave. It didn't look like, in his coffin, sorry, it didn't look like Elvis. But then we've got the Elvis with the round chin, and that is Trump. And basically, I was going to say, yeah, so you're pretending he's a good guy, and then there's got the Statue of Liberty. I think it was the face was replaced at some point, and if you look at the face, it looks like Elvis, the original face from the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah,
that's representing Lucifer with the light bearer and stuff like that. So yeah, again, this Antichrist thing, and again, Trump he was the guy. Apparently the Patriots loved him, and he was the guy doing Operation Warp Speed, and he's now the guy introducing AI, and he works with Chabad Lumovich and all that crowd, and even when you see videos, he's came to Britain, you need to sort the immigration problem, that's just going to lead to digital ID, and now a couple of days ago, it makes you sick. I try to avoid the news clips. I don't watch Keir Starmer because I can't handle it, and Trump is up there with that as well, but he's saying, the British PM, Keir Starmer, is doing a really good job and stuff like that. You're like, fuck off. You know what I mean? They're just part of the same club. And again, this media, and that's just all facade as well. Well, we couldn't get a peace deal. Like, these two guys are deciding the future of the world, and he's playing this role. You know what I mean? It's just pure acting, pure theatre for the people behind him, or the demon that's inside his head that's, he's not working for the people. None of these people are, and him being the Antichrist is quite high up there in my idea of being a possibility.
You could see with the two together that Keir Starmer was not intimidated, but you could see he was out of his league, couldn't you? That how weak Keir Starmer is when you put him next to someone like Trump. And I think that ultimately we know these people are put in place. By Bilderberg, by these think tanks that report to Club of Rome, Council of 13. We know that really they can't decide or do anything. They are just puppets controlled by the puppet master. We know that, but they still cause some damage along the way, don't they? And the more I see Keir Starmer, the more pathetic he appears to be, and he's almost in some cases like a fish out of water. He just doesn't seem comfortable, and I think that he knows now that most people, have realised that he's not capable of running a bath. I mean, the man who personally made sure by turning a blind eye that Jimmy Savile never got prosecuted, is now sat, in number 10 Downing Street. Really? I can't believe anybody voted for him. But then I can't believe people vote anyway. They really do think that their participation could change the world. Of course it doesn't. They don't care what box you tick or put your cross in. They don't get counted anyway. It's already been decided. We know what's going to happen. And this time I'm going to vote for blue because red did such a bad job, so I'm going to do that to spite them. They're all friends. They don't give a shit about you. It's a joke. They're just having fun. And whenever anybody raises anything serious in there, like Andrew Bridgen did during the pandemic, they walk out. They get up and walk away. They're not interested. They are disgusting. And sometimes I think, I think about Nigel Farage. Is he just, you got two cheeks of the same arse with a sphincter now? Is he being put out there just to encourage people to vote? Is that actually the purpose? So people are a bit more engaged.
Yeah, definitely. They try to get these other people in, but again, I don't trust him as far as I could throw them.
No, you mustn't do. They're all the same. They're all the same.
Then you've got Tommy Robinson, who's apparently, for the people, and he seems to be stirring up September the 13th, which I think could be heading towards a point where the police will get involved and it'll be used as an excuse to come down heavy on people. So you wonder about his allegiance, and he's got Israeli ties in his t-shirt and stuff like that. And again, it's another fake hero. Is it somebody said Lenin or something? Give people a hero to control the masses by giving them a false hero and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just another false prophet. And that I think Trump is too. I think they all are. So I think we need to disengage from all of it. I think we need to understand that we don't need these people. We don't need to give millions and millions of pounds or dollars to a group of people that tell us they have our best interests at heart, and then introduce things that we didn't ask for that make our lives worse. I think we've got to take the power back, and that starts with not voting. I think if we don't vote, don't participate, don't watch the news, don't take any notice of anything the government sends you in the post, if it's in the full caps legal fiction, it's not addressed to you, it's addressed to your placenta. So understanding that is the beginning, and in America they call it the straw man. But I think that we need to take back control, and we do that by not complying. That's the first thing. Going and protesting in the street, well, that's great, but no one cares. It doesn't even get televised. And a lot of the people that would observe the protest perhaps would think that they are for the wrong reasons, or people who are anti-asylum seekers are being racist or something. So they'll always be labelled like I'm a tin-foil hat wearer. John Hamer's and David Icke have been accused of being Holocaust deniers. And they're not denying that people were killed. They're denying who actually did this, why it happened, and the numbers that are involved. They're questioning. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions. There's a lot wrong with being told you can't, or made to feel ashamed or humiliated if you do. So I think that the more of us that start questioning these things, the better. But as I said earlier on, I think there's a massive amount of people that we can't wake up, and there are too many of them. And I think we're going to lose a few more of them, because there's going to be another outbreak. My guess is it'll be next spring. Respiratory again. I think this time it'll target children. They'll claim that it's killing children, because the old people didn't pull on the heartstrings enough last time. So I think they'll go for kids this time. And there'll be a massive amount of people that willingly roll up their sleeve, which will be the final nail in their coffin, I believe.
Well, there was lots of some videos getting made recently where they're talking about these lockdown procedures that schools are now being told is
Yeah.
going to happen, and as if there's another pandemic, people won't be able to get their children out of school. And some people are also claiming there's going to be some incident involving an immigrant or something like that at a school that'll set off, something will happen. Like, if you look in Dunblane, the Thomas Hamilton thing, that was all
Mm.
set up as well to
Yeah.
get the hand weapons off us. Again, another problem reaction solution using children. So, yeah, I would take children out of school. But he's talking
Yeah.
about spending millions of pounds. Again, this is fake money. What would happen
Mm.
if one day we all just stopped going to work? You know what I mean? We all stopped feeding the beast and we all got around in our local community and decided, right, we're going to look after each other.
Mm.
You know, and obviously the technology and our electricity, whatever, the national grid in theory supplies electricity, and we're just paying for it through the nose to these companies.
Mm.
I guess our climate isn't that bad here, that we couldn't survive without electricity or gas. We could have to get fires or stuff, but you know what I mean? Start growing our own food and relating to each other outside of these screens and outside of this media
Mm.
grows a culture. Media grows a culture, and that's what culture is. And it changes, over time. People can't see how cultures, like comedians, whatever, you could joke about something 10 years ago, but now I can't get a gig because you're not allowed to talk about anything real. And
Mm.
it's because of the social conditioning that's went on. People just, you've got to keep up to date with the times. Well, who's creating the times?
Mm.
So it's just pure programming. But again, it's these NPCs or whatever that are literally a result of the Matrix programming, and it's impossible to get through to them. So, yeah, they will line up for the job. And you've got these 5G towers as well.
Mm.
A lot of people who got ill is probably 5G radiation. Will they be
Yeah.
getting turned up to make a lot of people sick, to make it look like the pandemic's worse? Like Bill Gates said,
Exactly.
don't forget the second one. And we're going into the gates of hell. I mean, to take us. And some people again say, if you've got a digital ID, or you don't know who you are, when this fake pandemic happens, they'll turn up at the door and they'll physically try and get in and vaccinate you, because apparently it's like an AI that's getting into you, and you'll join the hive mind if you've been
Mm.
vaccinated, and
Mm.
you lose part of your soul and stuff. Do you think that's an element of this? Almost like you take the jab, you can't make it to the next level, and
Yeah.
you're trapped in this reality.
I do. Yeah, I do. I think that's what they're going to do. Um, so I think that it's going to be a combination, like it was before, that people suddenly started saying that they think they have long COVID, and actually that only seemed to be the case when they were near a mast. And so I got my son while he was in Australia to do an experiment. He was having trouble running on a treadmill in the gym, and I said to him, "Where's your nearest 5G mast?" He said, "Oh, I can see it." And I said, "Okay, well, where are you going at the weekend?" He was going into the outback. And I said, "Try running there and see if you see what happens." And he could run for miles because he's very fit, and he could run and run and run, and he kept going. And then when he went back home after about a week, he went back to the gym again, couldn't run, out of breath,
Wow.
exhausted. And I've spoken to a few people like that. And when they said, "Oh, do you know what? I feel lethargic. I've got no energy." I said, "Where's your nearest 5G mast?" And we know that it's nothing to do with a phone signal, because a lot of people can stand near one and not get a 5G signal. Um, I've turned it off on my phone so I can't receive a 5G signal, just in case. But I'm sure 4G is doing some damage. So I think what they're going to do with the next outbreak, it will be technology, nanotechnology, that reacts with the and people say that's in the previous one, the current
Yeah. So we've got
conflict.
that in it. Then the 5G will go up and then it'll fall over, and then,
Yeah, yeah. So I think that that's what they're going to do. With regard to them coming to the door and stuff, I think you're just going to have to stand your ground. I think if we fight back and say, you know, you can try, but you're not coming in. You're not coming through the door. Barricade the bloody door. Name and shame. Film these people. But of course, the people that are doing it, that will be doing this, will be the people that have been coming over on the boats,
yeah. So
because
they're paid for.
our people won't do it to us. That's why they've had to get these over. They're going to be doing all sorts of things because they don't care. They're not connected to us. So and that's the deal of them coming over. You come over here, we're going to uniform you up, train you, and this is what you're going to be doing. That's kind of the deal. So I think that I think then the tables will turn because they'll be serving military and serving police that will not comply. People in the fire service, ambulance drivers, and so on, that will refuse to comply too. So it'll be a very interesting time when you've got people that are members of the police force and the armed services also refusing to roll up their sleeve. Now that's when the tables will turn because there'll be people that will fight back, and that will be interesting. So what they'll do is they'll go for the vulnerable. They'll kick the doors in of people that they know are not going to resist or gonna struggle to, and the rest of us, they'll probably come mob-handed. So I think we've just got to do our best to fight back. But I have heard that. I do think it's definitely a possibility. It certainly seems like they're preparing for that. We'll just have to see how it pans out. But my guess is the next one is going to react a lot better with frequency, get us to drop dead in the bloody street or freeze, total control, and that will be the beginning of the end of this reset, I think.
Yeah. Well, I've had you on quite a long time, so thanks very much for that.
Oh yeah,
I'll
it's a
just
pleasure.
going to say before we go, just a last thought. I'm outside delivering mail basically 4 days a week, and it's been quite sunny for Scotland the past couple of months. But again, the planes come out, and then we get this. I call it chemtrail rain because it's so obvious. You get a 5 minute downpour of this kind of weird rain, but
Yeah,
I feel more tired than I feel. Just the sun. I feel like there's something different about it. I don't know.
yeah, I agree.
In the past, there's just this weather. Again, it could be the frequencies that we're living in, or something like that, or the sun's changed, or something like that. But I just feel like weird and outside, and then you get these winds. It's like sunny day. It's just like excessively windy or something like that. It's like what is actually going on? And it baffles me again how we're letting this happen. These planes, like I went on the Scottish Met, put a Facebook post, and I says, "Oh, nothing to do with the spray that we're getting for these planes." And the amount of laughs and comments, from the
Yeah.
keyboard warriors,
Oh
basically
dear, oh dear.
this woman, graduate student from Glasgow University, was like, "Oh, nothing. It's just like the planes we had during the war that leave the lines in the sky." Then I took a video of this. It's like this line. It just went from there way over there, and you can actually see it kind of thin where the plane was. But by this time, it's thick. It's coming down. I was like, I don't think the warplanes left lines like that. So we're getting poisoned as well, and people's joints are aching, and we're feeling lethargic and stuff
Yes.
because of this weather manipulation. What do you think about this? Sun and obviously the effects of the chemtrails.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that I do think also though that could be 5G.
Aye.
I think 5G might be affecting us, making us lethargic.
Yeah.
With regard to the chemtrails, we know they're chemtrailing, and anybody out there now that says it's just condensation, it doesn't matter what you tell them or show them. There's nothing there. They don't have the inner dialogue. They are the NPC. And people who you said you had someone, lots of people laughing. Anybody that laughs on somebody's comment when it's meant seriously is pathetic. And I think to do that shows more about that person, that rather than taking somebody's point of view and saying let's agree to disagree, or fair enough, you're entitled to your opinion, but I don't think so, I actually think this and this, that's a better way to do it. To just laugh or make a silly comment shows how pathetic that person is, and pathetic in every sense, and they should be ashamed of themselves, because we should accept each other's thoughts and views and agree to disagree, or share information with each other to help each other, and so on. To actually do that, the laughing face emoji needs
Oh, I
to
get
be
called a lot worse.
removed.
I got told shit your gob and all this. They're very rude and aggressive.
Yes, but
I
they,
mean,
they will, because they're so stupid. And you'll find that they are the ones that will roll up their sleeve given any opportunity. That they listen to the news in the car. At work at lunchtime, they'll read the paper. They'll listen to the news on the way home. They'll watch the news at TV. And if they tell them that the sun's now made out of cheese, they'll start telling other people on Facebook that the government have said it's made of cheese. Wow, isn't that amazing? I didn't know that before. There's no point engaging. So I don't engage with these. I block them. So I get quite a lot of stupid comments and a lot of ridicule. So I just block and delete. If it's on a group, I just block them. But I think what we've got to do is not engage. And the reason for that post I put up about the keyboard warrior a while back is to show that these people can't necessarily help it. We don't know what's AI, what are bots and trolls and so on. We don't know. Um, a lot of them are going to be, but some of these people use platforms like social media to appear to be superior to you, or to show some sort of flex of muscle, because in their life they might not have it. So if they've been severely bullied, they've got no friends, no one listens to them at work, they're lonely, even their own parents used to abuse them, and so on. They're going to be in a pretty bad place, and they'll use social media to fight back. So they'll target you because you're not in front of them. Now, these people, if you actually were stood in front of them in a pub, would never say the things that they say online, because they're not capable of doing that. And I'm not saying that because you're going to beat them up. It would just be too scary a situation for them to put themselves into. So they hide behind a screen. And I think that we've got to not engage with them ultimately. One, you're wasting your time. They're brain dead. And secondly, we don't know which ones are people and which ones are bots. So if by now you've not realised that they're chemtrailing, even though the government talk about it, they've talked about it at the United Nations, where people have sat there and complained that it's happening too much in certain states in America. It's been going on for years. If you still right now believe that it actually is condensation, then I don't think it matters what we show you or tell you. You're not going to change your point of view, because your brain doesn't have that inner dialogue that questions things. They serve a purpose, though. These people are part of the infrastructure. We need them to do certain things, but there's no point flogging a dead horse, and by dead I mean brain. If there's nothing going on in there, it's not worth your energy. My wife tells me all the time, because I get a lot of people that will bombard me on Facebook with messages. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I disagree with what you said about the other day, blah, blah. She says you've got to stop replying to these people, because they're taking your energy that could be used to reply to people with more information, rather than you just saying, well, I think this, that, and the other. You could spend a little bit more time replying to those people who are engaging, than the ones who dismiss everything. And then you try and spend half an hour, trying to convince them. She said that they're designed to remove your energy.
yeah.
Just don't go there.
Yeah, I shared a Gareth Icke video. He gave a 7-minute kind of synopsis. If I was in the government, what would I do to make Britain even worse? Because it was on a topic about we had a local protest against an immigrant hotel. So I just posted that, no comment. And then somebody says, "Oh, is that Gareth Icke? Is that David Icke's son? He must be a nutter just like his dad." And I just went, aye, aye.
Yeah, or block and ban. I block these people. I just don't bother anymore. I used to. There's somebody who's currently arguing on a post I put up. I wrote an article for the Light newspaper, and I shared it on a few groups about Tartaria. And there's someone in there who said, "Oh, the Light, isn't that all about propaganda and misdirection and conspiracy theories that aren't true and blah blah blah?" And some other people have started attacking this person, and then they replied with one comment and put my name in it. No, I think this paper's bullshit. So don't engage. Don't engage. You can't help being brainwashed and programmed. It's in your genetic makeup. Doesn't matter what I'm going to say. I won't be able to convince you anything otherwise. So I'm not going to engage with you because you are designed to just take my energy, and it's better spent doing other things and speaking to people on the same page as me, you know.
Yeah, I've just got one more for you, just because it popped into my head. On TikTok, I was posting poems and comedy and stuff, and I wasn't getting much traction. Now, just occasionally, I'll get the phone out. I've got a 5 minute walk, and I'll just ramble and
Mm.
shit comes out, whatever comes into my head. So Oasis have been in the news quite a lot recently, and I couldn't stand them back in the day. Their first album at the start was all right, and then they're all over the media. They're meeting Tony Blair. They're acting like arseholes and getting so much attention, and just like the music. There's so many other great bands out, and I'm like, why focusing on these guys? They were all right-ish initially. The first album, second, but then just became fannies.
Hmm.
But there seems to be a massive nostalgia thing. And first of all, they've done this tour and they've allowed dynamic pricing. So people, instead of paying 70 quid for a ticket, after a while, 100, 150, 400, people are paying astronomical amounts. And they're totally on board with it because Robert Smith from The Cure said the bands have an input in this where to decide that's a thing or not. And yeah, just everyone going crazy for it. So I posted my thoughts about this on TikTok. It got quite a lot of views because obviously it's topical, whatever, and then quite a lot of hate as well. They're just people having a good time, let them enjoy themselves and all this kind of thing. But they've not. It's like these people get popular, but they've not got anything to add to society. They're not trying to improve things, but they get access to massive amounts of influence. Really, if they come out on that stage, no, sorry, Liam was having a rant at Edinburgh Council. He said £3 billion to be brought into this country. £3 billion. I was like, that's a 33. Then he finished his hand with his hand gesture, and I'm like, that's Baphomet. But I don't know if he's got the brains to do that or not. But just things that you see. And then they've got this whole thing in the media that what do they call it? COVID super spreaders or something like that because you got to wear a mask, and it's almost like they're almost endorsing this idea. Like, do they do a deal with somebody, say, right, we'll give you this tour and all this publicity, but you go along with the program a bit, and just they're playing these huge gigs everywhere, and everybody's living in the past with this music, and all we got is cigarettes and alcohol. Talking about your post tomorrow. Yeah, what do you think of that whole phenomenon? And obviously, we know rock music's controlled, but just this Oasis thing in particular, you got any views on that?
Yeah, I have. And they're the same as yours, to be totally honest. I was the same. I really liked them when they came out. Then they became very arrogant, very greedy little pigs with their noses in the troughs, saying silly things. I mean, I couldn't give a toss about Robbie Williams, but I remember Liam having this constant ongoing battle with him, calling him a fat northern dancer. I don't know, something silly. I'm not interested in them. They bore me. And when I saw them coming back after years of hating each other and all of this nonsense, I just thought it's pathetic. They Oasis have two really huge fans, though, two really big fans, and they're the Gallagher brothers. They're the biggest fans of Oasis. So Liam's biggest fan is Liam, and Noel's is Noel. I wouldn't pay to go and see them. I wouldn't go and see them if they were free, because I think they're full of shit. They're sort of full of their own hype. Yeah, they've sold out big time. They started off as these working class heroes. I'm coining a John Lennon kind of phrase there, but they were working class heroes, and now they are, billionaire superstars. Sod off. And yeah, absolutely got at. The moment they're hanging around with Tony Blair is the beginning of the end, isn't it? Now, he was doing it to try and look cool, I suppose. They were doing it to show how important they are and how significant they are to the British civilization and culture. I think that once you retire, once the band splits, then you should knock it on the head. And I often think that when I see people like, Billy Spears or Paul McCartney, whatever you want to call him, getting back on stage for another gig somewhere, pack it in, mate. You've had your time. Let's move on. And we know that what their music is about. The only song they ever did that I really liked was Champagne Supernova. I thought that was quite well written. I quite liked what it was about. But the rest of them, and we know why the music exists. It's to get us in a certain mindset. It's all recorded on the wrong frequency, the world standard of 440 hertz. And the moment someone tries to record or re-record music at 432 instead, something bloody happens to them, because John Lennon did it, yeah, Prince did it, George Michael did it, Bob Marley did it. As soon as these people do that, it sort of seals their fate. So I think their music, yeah, it was great at the time, and there was a bit of a movement, wasn't there, with this sort of Britpop stuff. It's been and gone. They need to pack up and bugger off. No one with any logical train of thought cares what they've got to say about anything anymore. So
Yeah.
good riddance, I'd say.
I was actually at a festival. I'd seen him before, just not long after the first album came out at Tea in the Park. It was this tent, and there was a bouncing, and they're just totally new. And I was like, all right, but different guys with attitude, whatever,
Hmm.
good gig. But then quickly, I wasn't that impressed with Wonderwall, whatever, and just second album, whatever. But then not long after that, there was a festival in Glasgow Green, and I'd seen various other bands, Primal Scream and stuff like that. Actually, Foo Fighters were on, and I thought they were shit as well. It's another band that people seem to
He
love.
can't sing, can he? He can't bloody sing.
And yeah, Oasis were literally just about to come on, and I was like, the person I was with, fuck it, let's go. I just left because the crowd were just turning into arseholes. Like, I can't be bored with this. And, I just left. That's so much interest I had in them, Just way back then, yeah, just their attitude and going on stage with Michael Hutchins presenting an award and giving him grief, and how they were coked out their head, and just not a
Yeah.
very uplifting example. An artist to me should be somebody who lifts you and inspire you to do greater things.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But
Yeah, I
anyway,
totally
just
agree with you.
it's almost like so many people. It's just nostalgia, or just they want something almost to. Like the reception they've got, like the whole crowd bouncing. I mean, well done. But to me, it's like almost like they've paid that much money. They're going to enjoy it, because they're
Mm,
hugely invested in it. So,
mm.
but yeah, fair play. Some people like it. Good luck to them. But yeah, not for me. And the sooner they disappear up their own arse, the better. Because even bands like Pulp or Blur, they came back recently, but they wrote a new album for it, and then showed a bit of creativity. But they're
Mm.
totally reliving past glories of their first two albums, basically.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's you kind of think that they're getting low on funds, aren't they? That
Well,
millionaire
apparently,
lifestyle is
no,
dented, perhaps.
Noel got divorced, and apparently this is Noel's divorce tour.
Yeah, see, that would make perfect sense, wouldn't it, to generate some cash at the expense of other people, and to allow what they're doing with the way in which the ticket sales are conducted is disgusting. If they were these working class heroes that we should be that we've been led to believe, then they should be doing the reverse. They should have put the tickets in a position where it should be almost means tested. If you
Yeah,
can't afford a ticket because you're living on the street, you can have one for free.
yeah.
They're the opposite. They're not. They're not who they say they are. They've sold
Yeah.
out. They are a sellout.
Plus, they played Murrayfield for 3 days during the Edinburgh Festival, and it was expensive enough for lots of performers to stay in Edinburgh during that time. But that put the price up ridiculously through the roof for that period. So if you're doing a 3 week run and that's in the middle, it's almost like they've done it on purpose just to
Yeah.
destroy that. I mean, the Edinburgh Festival to me is destroyed anyway. It's all woke and
Yeah.
fucking, a pile of
Yeah.
shite. But yeah, it's just again another thing they don't care. We're Oasis, whatever. But
No, they don't care.
there's probably people telling them what they can and can't do. They're just going to actually know someone who was got no. This Noel Gallagher, he when he was still Oasis, he liked this band, and he done a remix, I think, of an Oasis song. So this guy liked me when I was doing my shooting a shit show, and he had health issues. Now he's in his quite well known alternative band. He's an amazing musician. So he friended me up, and then went to his house and met him, and he gave me an inside story into he was actually going to make Noel Gallagher's first album with him, and he was working on these tracks and ready to release it, and then all of a sudden Noel Gallagher released the songs, but in his kind of watered down rock and roll version instead of this guy's amazing fucking blow your mind type version. And he said, yeah, quite a few interesting things that I'm not at liberty to disclose, but again, the whole reason for the breakup wasn't as simple as them two falling out. But recently, actually 15 years ago, Noel Gallagher did say, "Oh, in 15 years we'll reform," and so he's almost like it's been planned to have this
Yeah.
fall for a period of time because maybe they're losing popularity. Let's pretend we're enemies for 15 years,
Hmm.
and then we'll have this tour to cash in.
Mm.
So again, these things probably can and do happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. It's just not. It's no coincidence anymore, is it?
Aye.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that it's all planned. And they what did they fall out over really? I mean, I think that it's staged. Yeah, it's just PR, and this is like you said, a tour to just generate an incredible amount of money, and to do what they did with the ticket prices is to extort money,
Yeah, basically.
take people for granted, abuse them. There'll be people who got in debt to buy a ticket. Just to see their idol, but there's a lot of youngsters out there now that think Oasis are cool. They might have been when they first come out. They're not cool now. And Liam Gallagher, I mean, what's that about? What's going on there?
Yeah, man boy.
Yeah, I mean, if he had an original thought, it would die of loneliness, wouldn't it?
I
He
mean,
could probably have an argument in a room on his own.
he comes up to the microphone so aggressive and angry because people are saying I was
Yeah,
angry
and then all that
talking
kind of
about
thing. Pack it in. It's boring. It's just boring, isn't it?
them.
But
They talk about
yeah.
being such big Beatles fans. I mean, let's talk about the real Beatles, and what actually happened.
Mm,
He'll never mention that. It's always still the Fab Four, but
mm.
again, we know it's different with the Tavistock Institute and stuff like that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll just, I've got them here, your two books, but they're probably in
Oh,
reverse.
bless you.
We can't
Bless
see.
you.
But we'll bring it up here. People want to get your books. Where can they find your books and get access to your
Well,
work?
they can get them on Amazon, but I always tell people that the best place to get them from is actually on my website, which is the tartarianempire.co.uk, because a lot of people don't want to support Amazon, and I can understand that. I have no option; I have to use Amazon to get them out there en masse. But my website, the tartarianempire.co.uk, they'll get signed copies. They can pay by PayPal, credit or debit card. So, and also if they want to, they can read the blogs on there that I can't put on Facebook. There's one about the Blitz. You've got it. That's the
Yeah,
picture of it there. Yeah. So there's some stuff I can't put onto Facebook. So that's the best place. But there are links on there. There are links on there to my Facebook. So if they want to, talk to me on Facebook or follow me on Facebook, there are links on there to do that. So it's an easier place to find everything than giving people different links for different platforms.
yeah. So that's the tartarianempire.co.uk. I
Yeah,
heard you say in the John Hamer interview there was stuff about the Blitz that you can't put on YouTube. You
that's
want
on
to?
my blog. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that I blogged about that on my website, and the Obama one's going on the website as well. That'd be not tomorrow, the next day. That's going on. And incidentally, I'm at. People keep saying to me, "You were on Iconic, Gareth Ike's channel a while back, with fella called
Richard.
one of the with Richard. Why doesn't David Icke ever talk about Tartaria?" And I asked that. I said that he's never discussed it. Is there any reason why? He didn't really know. He didn't have an answer. But Gareth's interviewing me next week, next
All right.
Thursday.
Cool.
So I'll have they've invited me up to their offices in Derby to have a chat with Gareth and be interviewed. So I'm going to ask again. Gareth might have a better understanding of why his dad doesn't research it or isn't interested in it. But I thought it was strange that they were inviting me back. Not a Zoom meeting with Richard, but now to go up and sit with Gareth and have a chat. I thought that was quite interesting. So I don't know where that's going. But I'm going to try and find out from Gareth why his dad's never looked down that rabbit hole.
Because last time I asked you that as well, why you weren't back on Richard's show, and Richard said it's went down a different direction. And to be fair, he doesn't interview people as much. He kind of gives half-hour talks on various topics these days. So they did change direction. I don't think they were just picking on you. But
Oh no, I didn't. I wondered at the time because they wanted me to come back on, or Richard did, and
right.
then I messaged him and said, any news, and he didn't reply for ages, and then he messaged me out of the blue, and I thought, this is strange, because he was really engaging with me
Yeah.
around the time, and I thought, oh, if I talked about a subject they're not allowed to talk about or don't want to talk about, is that what happened? But that clearly can't be the case, because my guess is that they've now perhaps looked into it a bit more. They're seeing more about it coming up on social media platforms. So maybe now they've thought, well, we had him on before, and he said a few bits and pieces. Let's get him on for a deeper dive with Gareth. Perhaps it's something Gareth's looking into now. But we'll see. But it would be lovely if I got there and David was there. I don't think that's the case, but it would be lovely to meet him.
He does go there quite often. I think he's got two houses, one in Derby now, where the offices are, in the Isle of Man. So he goes there for the studio. They have a round table every so often, so he might be lucky. He also never talks about flat Earth as well, which is quite interesting. And he doesn't really go into the Holocaust too much. In fact, when he lost access to Europe, because he was going to talk in Amsterdam and accuse them of being anti-Semitic and stuff, he made a point of saying, he never said that the Holocaust didn't happen.
No.
But, so it's another kind of area that maybe he wants to keep his work out there, and he'll get more banned. He realises how sensitive a topic that is, because a lot of people, it's one of these things you can go to jail apparently if you question it, because you can't have free thought, obviously.
No, we don't want anybody doing that. Well, that's why the post you put up is so important, because it demonstrates the people that don't have free thought. The ones that sort of did the laughing emoji or started saying insulting things. They are the ones that don't have that cognitive, function or ability.
Sometimes you wonder why you spend your life trying to help people, when you realise, especially after the debacle, the Convid or whatever, how impossible it is to actually get through to people. Just like, oh my God. But again, it helps people find their kind of camp, I suppose. And now it's a case of, I think, just let it run its way, because it's almost like there is two realities, and one people are going to go down one path and one people another. I think maybe vibrationally or something like that. Who knows? But or maybe we just don't reincarnate into this loop again. That would be a good thing.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah.
But once again, Guy, thanks very much for your time. If you hang on, I'll say goodbye to you afterwards. And thanks everyone else for watching. Go to is it the Tartarian Conspiracy?
No, the Tartarian Empire.
The Tartarian Empire.
UK. Yeah.
.co.uk. The headline on the tab says the Tartarian Conspiracy.
Yeah, I can't change that. I don't know why. It won't allow me to change that anywhere.
Right. But the website's the tartarianempire.co.uk. Check out Guy's work and go to his Facebook page. Again, lots of interesting ideas he puts there out on a regular basis, so well worth looking into that. Thanks very much for your time. And I'm back on Friday with Elizabeth Hancock, who's somebody who Guy put me on to, so I'm having another chat with her. Should be interesting. Come and check us out then. Thanks for watching. Cheers and out. Bye-bye.